Hey everybody out there, my name is Dragonix, and this is Afterlife Empire. This is a scouting party. This is my first impressions of the game. I have about 6 hours into it. But before I begin my first impressions, I want to make sure you guys know that this key was obtained from the Fine Young Capitalist, the publisher of this game. Now, Afterlife Empire is $4.49, and it is a sort of a simulator as you are a ghost who's trying not to die, basically. Yeah, I know, he's technically dead already, but he's basically trying to be remembered, and so he's got to scare people and make them remember him is the gist of what is going on here. So we're going to play a little bit of one of the campaigns that I've done here and just show you a little bit about what the game has to offer. Now, this is the house that I've built. You start with a very, very small shack. In fact, that 5x5, well, I shouldn't say 5x5, 7x7 area with the flowers is what I started off with. But I've built out the house to have, a kitchen, a couple bedrooms, some bathrooms, and basically this allows you to be able to attract people to your house. Now, there are 4 main stats that the house sort of has around with the ghost. You have your sort of scare meter on the top right there, the awareness, the number of traps, and then that sort of space portion there is the amount of sort of area that you've covered with those buildings. So the main idea here is that you scare individuals, and that will generate scare power. Now, certain individuals don't scare easily, while others scare very quickly and very easily. So the question is that you have to use your scares wisely in terms of not only scaring the right people, but also scaring the right people in terms of priority. You have your regular, sort of guests that come here, but you also have people who are very specialized. You have, for example, the grandmothers up there are exorcists. You see right there, I was scaring that one guy. These are lovers, and if I scare one, the other one becomes very profitable in terms of me scaring them for scare points. Now, the game goes on until you run out of scare in terms of that sort of scare points in the top right corner. Those scare points are used for not only scaring, but also for building items in your house and sort of expanding your house. So that's your main currency. Now, as you saw there, I actually killed a couple people. That generates some awareness, although killing 5 people with one sort of shot and only generating 500 awareness, I think the police would come after 5 people drop dead in one shot, but hey, what do I know? Now, the house does have traps in terms of the props that I put in there, so people who are wandering in the house can sort of be scared by themselves. And that's actually going to be a lot of generation in terms of your scare power, because you'll be focused on taking out certain individuals, really. Like, again, the reporters and the ghost hunters and things like that, they will cause you problems if left unchecked. Now, one of the things you may have noticed is that the way I've constructed my house, almost all the entrances are on one side, and that's purposeful. Part of the problem with the game is the fact that in terms of the UI, in particular with the UI, the way it's constructed, it's very hard to see when a person is really screwing up your house. In particular, if you have multiple entrances, if they're in the line of sight in terms of your current, view, it won't point them out to you. They'll just be another person. The problem with that is that it may be very hard to see what's going on with your house. And in particular, if you're in a bad situation, like your awareness is being drained, awareness is going up. You see, with a certain amount of awareness, you have situations where, bulldozers can come if you have too much awareness. Now you see here, I am building another section of the house that is going to use some scare power at this point. I am going to, build a door and put some props in it. Now, the more props you have, the more awareness that you have. The idea here is that you're attracting people to the house, and the less stuff you have, the less attractive you can make it. The logic doesn't work a little bit there, but, I understand the purpose of it. Now, the problem, I think, with the Afterlife Empire, and don't get me wrong, I think the core game idea is good, but it gets very repetitive very quickly. Now, the thing is that, again, you're going to be dealing with all the specialized characters here. In particular, you see those yellow-haired characters right there. Those are all reporters, and they will raise your awareness through the roof. You got to get rid of them. So you're basically trying to sort of fend off people. You also get sort of false flags while playing, unfortunately. For example, you'll see the guy with the construction hat on the left-hand side that's got that circle portion on it. He will remove traps if he's near him, but he removes traps only if he's near in terms of, like, right on top of it. But that doesn't necessarily translate logically when he's able to sort of cause the removal trap icon through a wall. And so there's this weird logic sometimes in which it will tell me, oh, like right there, red. Oh, the guy's removing a trap. No, he's not in this case. In fact, he's completely not. Now, I'm letting in a ghost hunter here to show you guys exactly what is happening to my awareness. I don't like the fact that it doesn't highlight the awareness going up. In fact, if I didn't notice it, it would have kept on doing that. It would have kept on going. And in fact, at one point here, I do actually forget, you know, that my awareness is going up, and it should be a different color, or, you know, the purple doesn't necessarily work in my opinion. It's too sort of blended into the background in terms of the sort of maybe a drop shadow or something to really make it pop up, like, you know, a bright blue or something like that. Now, don't get me wrong, I like the game's core. The game's core concept works, and I think Danielle, who was I believe the idea behind the game, made a good core concept here, although it needs a little bit more, you know, variety and a little bit more variety in gameplay. But the big issue here is technically, there's a lot of technical issues under the surface here. Now, you'll notice around my house, there's no trees or anything. That was purposeful. Part of the reason is that you can't rotate the camera. Without being able to rotate the camera, it becomes hard with, like, especially the trees, to see some people coming. They'll sort of blend into the background, which is problematic because, again, with no way of actually seeing them, especially early on where you're going to be generating your scare power from, like, you know, scaredy cats and, you know, those couples that I saw before, it's really important to see. And so I just got rid of all the trees at that point. It also sucks that you can't seemingly rotate items to make the house that you really truly want. And at first I thought, okay, you know, I try to move an item and tried every which way to figure out how I can move it. But no, that's the case because you have couches, for example, with moving or facing one way and then the other in terms of buyable objects. Now, I've got about half awareness here, and then I think I miss, like, somebody coming in terms of getting into the house. When things fall off the rails of this game, they fall off the rails. The problem is that once you get a high enough awareness, the police come, and you might as well just stop at that point because you're not going to be able to recover. When this game has a waterfall expectation in terms of, like, when things go bad, it's really a bad waterfall in terms of, like, you might as well drop off the face of the earth. Now, you also might have noticed some performance problems while I've been playing the game, and I have noticed some issues, especially with recording. I had a nasty time trying to get some of this stuff to work, but in particular, there were a lot of crashes early on. Now, they have fixed some of the problems, but I still get crashes now and again, and they've explained that on their blog, and I understand the logic and understand the programming sense behind it. I still don't think this game was ready for sort of prime time. It's the lack of polish that really sort of concerns me. It's the UI that, in terms of, like, the renovation of the trap there, that will stay up there for as long as, you know, forever at that point. The thing is that, like, you saw that Renovator is removing a trap. Even when he's not removing a trap right then, you'll still see that logic, and so you'll be like, okay, wait a minute, where is he removing a trap? Even if there's nothing actually going on right now. And that sort of compounded with the fact that with the sort of view thing that I said before, you may not just see where he's removing the trap, so you're completely second-guessing yourself over and over again. I want to like this game, I really do, but it's the technical issues and the lack of polish that really hurts it in the end. It is a $5 title, and a majority of it is going to charity, and I think in that of itself, it's worth a purchase, especially for the charities that they're going for, but it's little features like I mentioned before, the zoom only goes out so far, and that wasn't even in the first build. The idea of not being able to rotate and things like that. All right, here you have the awareness being too high, and so the police are coming. They will drain your scare power very quickly, and so you gotta be able to deal with it. So I'm placing more props to add more awareness. I'm going to add some couches here and things like that. There's also little things like to press the right mouse button to access options. Right mouse button doesn't do anything. There's no bindable keys, and in fact, what bothers me is that there's actually no exit button in the game. Now, there's a quit button to return to the main menu, but once you get to the main menu, you don't actually have a button to quit, which is sort of strange, at least in my opinion. I don't know what happened there, per se, but you have to. I've always had to, right-click and exit at that point, or wait for it to crash. Now, I feel like this is a game I need to revisit and let it sort of stew for a little bit. There are mods like the Vivian James mod in terms of using the infinity symbol instead of the whatever is in her hair normally, but I feel like the mod scene could really improve it in terms of like different characters, and especially if there's some logic added in terms of like, okay, I can add some unique elements to it. I feel like there's a buildable element there that really works. Awareness is too high. They're sending bulldozers. They will just basically bulldoze her home. As you will see there's nothing you can do about it other than try to remove awareness. But I also want to sort of show you this because at one point, something weird happens. So, bulldozing here, and you see the bulldozer. My scare power, as you can maybe tell, it's about almost at 9,000 at this point, which sucks, but okay, it's going to happen. So we got a bulldozer coming here. It's going to hit the wall and start, taking out things. I'm going to try to scare it. It's not going to work. Okay, but I'm at 5,000 right now. All right, so seemingly easy enough. Okay, 5,000, 4,000, 3,000, 2,000. I'm doing this purposefully, guys. 2,000, 1,000. Okay, so I'm going to die pretty soon here, right? Don't count on it. I'm generating a little bit of extra scare, and all of a sudden I'm at 40,000. Yeah. There are major bugs in this game, and that's just an example of this. In fact, this game is about to crash on me right now because, well, I'm putting vocals over this, so this game is going to crash right about now. In the end, one of the big problems with the game is just how long you're going to be able to really sort of stand the fact that you're playing the same game over and over again. I hate to say it, but this game needed a lot more variety in the end. And after 6 hours of gameplay, nothing really changed. Yeah, you got more people, but when it comes down to it, you're scaring the same people and you're playing the same mechanics over and over again. And really, I would like to see a little bit more complication. I would have liked to see, bonuses for scaring multiple people in one scare. I would have liked to see some kind of mechanic with feng shui in terms of certain rooms working for better people, or vice versa. I didn't really see a reason to spend a lot on bigger, more expensive rooms most of the time because it just didn't work. It wasn't necessary. Yeah, it helped in terms of points, but once you got to this fourth level, which is this 99999 thing, which at first I didn't even realize whether or not it was, purposeful, because it just seemed like, oh, 9999, is that another bug? I didn't understand what it was trying to do. Again, this is a game that unfortunately needs polish, and I feel like a month or two more in sort of development and sort of, polishing up the sides would have made it a reasonable title to buy. Now, it's hard for me to sit here and not justify the idea of, a $5 title that a good amount of it goes to charity, but if I'm just looking at it from the games itself, and while the concept has been done in other ways, and while there's an interesting element at the core there, I can't recommend it because of some of the technical issues I faced, as well as just the repetitive gameplay. I think it needs more, and maybe, again, I will revisit this game. I will revisit it after maybe a couple of weeks, let it sort of sink in there, but honestly, at this point, it is a pass on my side. Now, if you liked what you've seen here and wanted, help out the fine young capitalists and, the game that they've created, by all means, there is at least some element of fun at this game at its core. scaring certain people and, you know, supporting a developer like this. But overall, I just have to say, it just doesn't do enough for me. All right, this is Dragonix signing out. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and keep on gaming.